Hi everyone, I know things seem bad at the moment. All our fandoms, all our beloved franchises seem to be on the precipice of destruction. But it's actually pretty good. If you really think about it, it's pretty good. I mean, the comic book industry is burning to the ground right now. And if DC were to have the plug pulled onto them by AT&T, if Marvel Comics got a quick by Disney, then hopefully those licenses of the characters would go to a company that, you know, might want to make some money out of them and therefore start to create product that appeals to its actual target audience, not the crazy, weird, degenerate one which the current industry wants to. Then you've got stuff like Disney and Star Wars, and they've hired another person, another female, to take Disney forward with a female-centric Disney Plus Star Wars TV show ZZs, which I'm sure is going to be absolutely fantastic because when they've gone down that route, it's worked really well for them so far. Ding! And then we've got things like Star Trek, where the rumour is that Discovery... I can't keep a straight face. Discovery has apparently been renewed for season 5! Even before season 3 has aired, which is great because CBS would be bankrupt. We'll be bankrupt by then, and again, maybe someone will pick up the Star Trek franchise and the license and actually want to create good product that appeals to the vast majority of those fan bases. Unfortunately, though, has Jonathan Frakes just attacked the Star Trek fandom? Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. Yes, that was a long introduction. Oof, ladies. I know, but it's 9:45 AM British time, and I'm already 2 cups of coffee deep. Ladies! So we're taking this article from Bounding Into Comics, and it runs with the title of Jonathan Frakes, RIKER #1 from Star Trek The Next Generation, and some other weird show called Pecans. Star Trek Pecans. On Star Trek Picard critics, they are watching to make sure they hate it. Oh, provocative comment, Jonathan, n'est-ce pas? But let's get into it. I've got a very specific opinion about this, don't worry. But I don't think it's quite as clear-cut as it all sounds. I'll go into my take in a bit. Let's go through the article. #1, actor Jonathan Frakes recently appeared on GalaxyCon's live Facebook live stream. During his conversation, the actor and director discussed plenty of issues related to Star Trek. One that stuck out was his views on fans who were critical of CBS All Access's Star Trek Pecan. Frakes discussed fans who are critical of the show while reflecting on his own experiences during the convention circuit. He told a story about his first convention right after the premiere of Star Trek The Next Generation and the hostile crowd he faced. Now, I want to interject myself, ladies, if I can. 2 cups of coffee already. First of all, Star Trek The Next Generation, when it first came out, you have to bear in mind that this was the first time Star Trek didn't have the original cast. So it was, I think, very different. This was the passing of the torch for the very first time. And so when you did create this new Star Trek series, yes, there was going to be a lot of scrutiny. When DS9 came around, when Voyager came around, when Enterprise came around, they were looked at differently because the torch had already been passed. The Star Trek universe had already been established. And so things like DS9, particularly, and Voyager, because they were still in the same era as the Next Generation, they were all on the same timeline, they were looked at in a different manner. Still, you know, you can be critical. DS9 decided to go for a more, when I say soap opera, they kind of went for long form storytelling, as opposed to Voyager and the Next Generation, which both went for episodic storytelling. Okay. And yeah, they kind of switched about hither and thither. But TNG was the first time that the original cast weren't at the helm, and so there was going to be a lot of scrutiny. So he says, at the beginning of the discussion, Frakes is asked about what it felt like to enter the weird, strange world of fandom. He answered, the first convention I ever did was in Syracuse, New York, and it was the winter of '87. And the show, I think, had just started in September. It had. So the audience was very hardcore original series. Yes. They were skeptical. Yes. They were suspicious. Yes. You can understand that. They were generally not terribly interested and completely unfamiliar with this new Star Trek, which had a bald English captain with a French name, which, yes, and an entirely new cast. They wanted Kirk, Spock, and Bones Star Trek. Yeah. This was the first time. So it's always going to be a big moment of transition. But once that big moment of transition is over, once you have established yourself, then that paved the way for DS9 to come, for Voyager to come, for Enterprise to come later on. And they were all received in different ways by people. Enterprise not so favourably. That was really Rick Berman's own kind of thing, whereas DS9 and Voyager was very similar in tone to TNG. He elaborated, I had no idea what the world I had entered was going to be like. I had no idea what the experience was going to be like. I was a nervous wreck. The conversation then goes into Frakes' experiences as Captain America before it's brought back, beg your pardon, to Star Trek. At around the 23:30 minute mark, Frakes is asked about when Star Trek the original series fans began to embrace the Next Generation show. Frakes responded, I don't think it was until the second or third year when the show got really good. And I remember we did 26 shows a year. That was a lot. That's 50, 60 shows in, he added. They realised that there was room in their world for both shows, and then Paramount, in its wisdom and greed, produced Voyager and Deep Throat 9. I don't know if he meant to say Deep Throat 9. Maybe he was doing a funny. An Enterprise, and it went on and on. There you go. So it kind of goes in. Right. Season 3 is commonly known as the season where the Next Generation really got into its stride. I think it got into its stride in Season 2, about halfway through Season 2. Season 3, just everything kind of came together. Season 1, we had Tasha Yar get killed off. Denise Crosby didn't want to stick around, and so she got killed off. Gates McFadden had an issue. She didn't return for Season 2, and we got Dr. Polanski instead. When Season 3 came around, they had the change of the uniforms. So the Lycra onesies were gone with the stripe across the shoulder. We had the collared two-piece uniforms with the buttons, the insignias on the actual collar itself. Gates McFadden returned as Beverly Crusher, who was a fan favourite. People loved Beverly Crusher, loved the character. So it was great to have her back from Season 3 onwards. Everything seemed to slot into place with Season 3. Because they seem to get, all the surrounding elements sorted out. But I think it was definitely Season 2 that it really started to come into its stride. I think the Q episode with the Borg, I think that was a pivotal moment in Star Trek The Next Generation. So really, if it really wasn't 50 or 60 shows in, and I'm not trying to be nitpicky to Frakes here, but it's probably 35 shows in, You know, really? That's what I personally think. But there we go. You know, it's subjective. So, yes, he goes on about Trekkie and stuff. So let's get into Discovery. Frakes then discussed the reception of Star Trek Discovery. But my friends at Discovery, which I was privileged to be part of and still am, there was a similar vibe when that show came out. People, they didn't want to find room in their hearts for another Star Trek, which there clearly is. Disagree. I think we got a lot of room in our hearts for Star Trek. We'd love to see some Star Trek. STD is not Star Trek. It's not Star Trek at all. This universe that it's set in is disgusting. The characters are repugnant. It's very partisan. Shall we just put it that way? And its main character is a pleb. They're unlikable, horrible people in an unlikable, horrible, dystopian sci-fi universe. This isn't Star Trek. And the way that they've behaved and the way that they virtue signaled, I don't even think these people go to conventions because they're too good for that. They're too good to mingle with the riffraff. Or maybe it's because they're actually self-aware that the show isn't liked and they're not liked as characters. This whole Jar Jar Abrahams thing that came along, this whole Kurtzman thing that came along is a disgusting mess. It's anti-Trek. It's everything that Star Trek doesn't stand for. What's the image for Season 3 of Discovery? Is it a united crew together? No. It's one person, stupid Michael Barnum, on a planet with fucking dreads and a flag of the Federation. Because that's what the show is. It's a virtue signal. Piss off. So there is plenty of room in our hearts for Star Trek, but Alex Kurtzman doesn't understand it at all. And that prick, because he is a massive prick, needs to go. And I think, Jonathan, and I say this to Frakes himself, you're too close. Because you work with these people, and I'm sure it's your world, this whole Hollywood bubble, it's your world, and I'm sure they're wonderful, and you're all wonderful, and you're all fantastic, but in the real world where we live, in the real world where we sit down with our mugs of tea to watch it, it's shit. It's dog shit. He then touched on Star Trek Picard. And one of the reasons that was not a factor in the launching of Picard is because the hardcore fans loved Picard and were inclined to look forward to the show. Yes. And look forward to having him. Yes. And look forward to whatever the story because they knew him and they knew who he was. Yes. People were willing to give Picard the benefit of the doubt until it came out. Because what we had of Picard, even though we have two Picards, we have series Picard, the thoughtful captain, and then we have film Picard, the crazy warmongering madman. But he'd earned our love, he'd earned our trust, he'd earned our respect, and so we were willing to give the benefit of the doubt to the series prior to it coming out. Then we watched it. Some argue that the familiarity that Frakes is talking about isn't there with Star Trek Picard. Since the show has aired, many fans have expressed their concern that Picard is not the Picard that they know. And the world the show inhabits is not Star Trek. Absolutely agree. Instead, it's a hollow and expensive CGI version of Star Trek. Hollow? Correct. CGI, for the most part, sure. But is this the Star Trek universe? No. No. And that is what separated Star Trek as a sci-fi show against all the other sci-fi shows out there. Star Trek was the optimistic future for mankind. Now, it's just another dystopian sci-fi show, and it's not even well written. Not even well written. Let's get on to the provocative part, shall we? Finally, the $1 million question was asked. Host Mike Broder brings up there are a number of Star Trek fans who are unhappy with Picard. Frakes responds, but they'll watch it. They are watching to make sure they hate it. No. Are there some people who hate watching it? Yes. We've got one right here. Nerdrotic. Nerdrotic and Doomcock. They're not enjoying the show, but they watch the show because they did a podcast on it. They would do critiques on the episodes about it. So yeah, there are some people who will hate watch it. There are people who hate watch anything. I hate watch Batwoman. The show is terrible. But people want me to review it because they like the mental breakdown that follows it. But are people watching to make sure that they hate it? No. I think a lot of people dip from the show. It seems to be the case. I personally managed to get to episode 7, although I wanted to dip out before then. I should have dipped after episode 5. Because I was disgusted with episode 5. Disgusted. To me, it was raping the corpse of Star Trek. That's what it was. It was absolutely disgraceful, that episode. And I liked the first episode. I thought it was okay. I fell for the tricks. But apart from that, 2, 3, 4, 5, no. Episode 6, I think I quite enjoyed it. But I think I probably quite enjoyed it because of how different it was from episode 5. And we actually got to see Frakes and Troy and stuff. So there was a sense of familiarity again. So I seem to fall for the traps of the familiar. That's what I fell for. Whereas the substance of the show, and there was no substance because nothing fucking happened, was garbage. And then I watched episode 7, I was like, fuck this. No, I couldn't even manage the final 3. I tried. I gave it a go. It was shit. It wasn't Picard. It wasn't, Jean-Luc Picard. It wasn't him. It wasn't Star Trek. It wasn't their universe at all. No. So I would absolutely disagree, and I think it's again such a stupid thing to do. And I like Frakes, and I don't want to go after him because I do like him. And even though he is well entrenched in this world, he is relatively reasoned on Twitter when you see him tweet and stuff. Yes, he's a lefty. He's a bit of a far lefty, but he's not into the crazy realm. You know, there is a little bit of temp there. Not as much as Brent Spiner. Brent Spiner is pretty much spot on. Even though he doesn't like the Orange Man, he's sound. He's still got a lot of humour about him and whatnot. So I don't want to go too hard with Frakes here. But look, just leave the fans alone. People are allowed their opinion. Get over it. Whether that opinion be vocalised in a YouTube video, in a podcast, on a radio show, wherever it may, on TV, whatever it may be, people are bloody entitled to their opinion. And guess what? Others are going to agree with it and others are going to disagree with their opinions. But when you start battling the fans, you're going to lose every time. Because as we've seen, every single fandom that has challenged the fans, Star Wars, that has come out and had a go, has had themselves decimated. Decimated. Because all you do is alienate people. Don't alienate people. You, more than most people, Jonathan, know Star Trek was about optimism. Star Trek was about everybody coming together. Not a partisan message where you've got bloody Patrick Stewart before the series has even come out going, oh, I'm so scared because of Trump in the office. Oh, fuck off. Get over it. Look, hey, it's 2020. The elections are coming up later this year. Maybe, maybe not. Has the world blown up yet because of him? No. Get over it, you whimpering soy cocks. Jesus wept. Has Britain died because of Brexit? No. We're all locked in our home because of COVID instead. Stop challenging the fans. Let them have their opinions. The ratings will speak for themselves, and I don't think they're particularly good. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe, because YouTube's kind of like unsubscribing a lot of people. And I'm getting messages going, I keep getting unsubscribed from your channel. So please make sure that you are subscribed. Follow me on Twitter. And I do live streaming on YouTube now. There's probably going to be a live stream later today. We're going to do some bagging. We're going to do some boarding. And we're going to do some chatting later on. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.